Hello, everyone. Paul Elam here with another message from avoicefrommen.com. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to make a man bomb. We've seen it through the ages countless times before, whether in the French Revolution or the dense and decaying inner city enclaves of Los Angeles and Detroit. The suppressed outrage of marginalized populations can erupt into mob violence, setting buildings and entire cultures ablaze. The same precursors are always there, though by tradition and perhaps by design, we ignore them. The discrimination, oppression, bigotry, and other human failings we justify or disregard are the tools in the great societal bomb-making kit, a kit that has been a permanent fixture in human civilization. It's as though the occasional burning city, streets littered with the dead, or even toppled governments are every culture's proof of human authenticity. And we ignore the ticking down of the timer until the body bags begin to fill, until it's too late. And now, in keeping with the annals of our rigorously ignored history, we are setting about the business again of orchestrating a future catastrophe. After a bloody revolution for our freedom and independence, the scourge of slavery, an even bloodier civil war, and a civil rights campaign that we handled with police dogs, riot guns, and water cannons, we have put ourselves right back on the course of an inescapable social crisis. This time, we're building a man bomb, and when this one detonates, it could make the American race riots look like a Thanksgiving Day parade. The misandric zeitgeist, the system of feminist governance that most are still loath to even acknowledge, is about to head toward its inevitable and ugly conclusion, and the results of that will inflict another deep wound on the psyche of the Western world. In the men's rights community, a minority in its own right, we have long lamented the cruel and destructive war that has been waged against men and boys for the past half-century. We've shouted endlessly at a deaf world that we were on the path to destruction, and we have watched our predictions of men being reduced to indentured servants to a malicious matriarchy come true, even as society continues to dismiss and humiliate us for speaking. The buzzwords and catchphrases have gone largely unchanged. They are now part of the common lexicon for those no longer blinded by the wool of a matriarch or matrix being pulled over their eyes. VAWA, child support, Title 4D, false allegations, family court corruption, paternity fraud, male bashing, assumed guilt, man bad, woman good paradigm, phony wage gap, phony DV stats, media bias, etc., etc., etc. All these terms and more are familiar to men and women who have seen through this transparent culture of hate and into an awareness of the problems we face, but do not acknowledge, problems we suffer from, but from which there is no relief. Some have reacted with anger, some with hate, some with righteous indignation, and others with resignation and hopelessness. But during these dark years there has been little public outrage, thanks to the benefit of human denial. For many men, it is always the other guy who gets raped in family court. It is someone else that lands behind bars on a false rape charge. Some other unfortunate loses his career and reputation because the culture and the legal system assumes he must be guilty of whatever claim is made against him by a woman. We have been a culture of head shakers, quick to say tisk tisk and move on about our business, blind and indifferent because it is not happening to us. But now there are forces in play today that will almost certainly unleash a fury that few can comprehend and nobody wants. A recent Wall Street Journal article, Meet the Unemployable Man, predicts that over the next several years, 1 in 6 men between 18 and 54 years old, or 18 million, will be unemployed and unemployable. That is 18 million men who will look for work and find none. Millions of others who once carried briefcases or hammers and nails, but who will in the days ahead push brooms and make French fries. There will be 18 million men who become the other guy, and that is in addition to the millions of other guys that are already walking among us. In other times this would just be a run of economic bad luck which would pass with better times, but all the indicators are that better times will not find these men. The typical escape from poverty is education, but that route too for men is being cut off by the very forces that are the source of this problem. Men are now only 40% of college students, with the indicators pointing to even more drastic reductions in the future. College, like employment, will soon become a woman's world. And the 18 million men with nothing to do but worry and stagnate and fester cannot be expected not to notice. And they may well begin to notice a great many other things that they never did before because they were happening to the other guy. The ticking should be as thunder in our ears by now. The ranking members of the matriarchy, like social terrorists, are partnering with and guiding government toward the inevitable explosion. And when it goes off, they will be the first to point the finger at men, even at men's rights activists, for the fallout. It won't help them, though, because whatever tragic end this comes to, it will not be at the hands of men's rights activists, but in spite of our efforts to prevent it. If the streets erupt again, as they have so many times before, they will be filled with the average man who never heard of the men's rights movement. They will just be poor men, many of them young and fatherless due to the current system, acting out their rage against a world that includes and idealizes women, but that treats men like social pariah. They won't be thinking of VAWA or domestic violence hypocrisies, because they will be in large part the same men who have denied these problems all along. We might see them in a tax revolt or at tea parties gone violent at some point in the future when things are much worse than they are now. Or they may not have any political affiliation at all. But one thing is certain: that many desperate and hostile men are not going to remain silent. They will act as men have always acted in similar circumstances throughout history. And during the process, they will be looking again at many things they have ignored in the past. There will be volumes of information, long ignored, that will suddenly make devastating and dangerous sense to them. It is actually a testament to men and an exposure of the lies perpetrated against them by gender ideologues that we have even come this far in the last half-century without blood in the streets. It has always been in men's nature to take care of others better than themselves, and they have proven this with their silence in the face of so many constant abuses. Betting on that silence to continue when men are hungry is foolish. It is possible that none of this will come to pass. I do not pretend to be a social prognosticator, and I do not have a crystal ball. But I can add 2 and 2 and still get 4 even in this crazy world. And I know that anyone, even men, if backed into a corner and kicked long enough and hard enough, will come out swinging. The 60s were not just peace, love, and dope, people. They were cities on fire and bodies on the ground. And because of that, I write this genuinely afraid. The men's movement, the only bomb squad we have, had better catch on in grand fashion, I think. And even if it does, we better hope that happens before the society we live in finds itself at ground zero when the clock ticks down. And this is Paul Elam signing off again for avoiceformen.com. Take care, and until next time, don't forget to carry the message.